So today I've got the Cayenne ready to go on the lift, and today's project is going to be a JXB Performance center support bearing. So I'll be replacing the OEM one that kind of wears out over time. It's one of the most common failure points on the Cayennes of the first generation. So JXB has sent me this, and I'm going to show you guys how to install it. I myself don't know, so we're going to figure this out. So in the box, there should be two different bushings JXB offers. One of them being the race version, and then one of them being the street version. Okay, so right off the bat, we've got some rubber pieces, some other rubber pieces. I'm guessing this goes on top. Okay. I had no idea this stuff was going to be in here. There's two different sets of bushings. So there's the track bushings and then there's the street bushings. So the bags are marked separately, one with street and then one with track. You'll see the T right here. And then also on these bushings themselves, one says street front, one says track front. So there's two different sets of bushings in there. And then this is going to be what will replace an OEM bushing mount. So you'll be able to put this in the tunnel and then mount the actual carrier to it. So I'm not sure if I'm actually going to use that part or not, or if I could just mount this to the OEM spot. Depends how involved this is once I get under the car. But that's how this works. Now that we're underneath the car and we've located the center support bearing, we've got to take this plate off, and pretty importantly these two screws, because those are holding the actual carrier on. So let's get that off. So the two different size bolts we've got here are a 13 millimeter and a 16 millimeter. So we're going to go ahead and take off the center support bearing bolts first. All right, so I do believe now this actual bearing is going to stay on, but we're going to cut this off and remove it. So now that we've got it cut in one spot, I'm going to try and wrestle it off the bushing that it's looks like it's somewhat permanently affixed to. Pull the Driveshaft down a little bit. The bushing's putting up a fight. Come on, little bushing. Rotate this, and there we go. So spread it apart. And now I've got the original bushing carrier off. So I think at first, I'm going to try and use an X-Acto knife to cut away the OEM bushing. So I believe that's going to be good enough. Okay, so now that I've got all the center rubber cut off of the actual bearing itself, you kind of want to make it as flat as you can, but if you leave a little bit, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to put the bearing on upside down. Make sure it kind of fits a little snug, or really just get it as tight as you can. And then you're going to transfer that to the top as you spin the bearing. So from there, we're going to put the bottom piece on with the street bushing as well. And also make sure the bushing is facing the correct way. So where it says street front, you probably won't be able to see it, but it says street front. So you're going to make it front face this way. And you're going to use a 5mm Allen key to connect them. Crap. This is going to be a little bit difficult just because the drive shaft is still in the car. Okay, so now that we've got the bolt actually started, we can try and get the bushings in the correct place. Okay, so make sure it's centered on the bushing, and then now we'll worry about getting the second screw in. So we'll put this side in now. Okay, so now that we've got the actual carrier support on, and it's clamped down on both sides pretty well, holding the center bearing pretty tight, all we should have to do is put this bracket back on, and then we're good to go. So after that, we've installed the JXB center support bearing. So here we've got the JXB tunnel mount, and on both sides, you're gonna have the rubber bushings that came in the kit. So you're gonna place those parallel to each other on both sides, and then make sure that this piece is facing toward the back of the car. So there's two sides, one with shallower, one that's deeper, and the deeper one is going to go toward the back. So with the kit itself, they include 2 new bolts, 2 small washers that are going to go on the head of those bolts, and then 4 larger washers that are going to go on the other side of the bushing. So that makes sure that you don't actually crush the bushing too much. Okay, so one is screwed in slightly. Now we've got to get the other one in. Okay, so that one started. Let's get a few of these other bolts kind of started, just to keep it solid as we screw those middle ones in. Now I'm going to be very light with the impact as I do this. So that should be very sturdy, and that's going to keep the center support bearing held in for a long time. Let's actually give it one more go with this. Okay, so we're ready to put the other 4 bolts in too. And that's it. The center bearing support is now installed. So it looks tight, looks functional from both sides. I should never have a problem with that. And since they're the street bushings, they're actually going to be a bit softer than the race ones. I'm looking forward to this actually holding up, you know, never having to replace it again. Thank you so much to JXB Performance. I hope this helps you guys. If you guys are thinking about doing the similar thing, this took me about 40 minutes. I'm sure it would take a little more time while underneath the car on jack stands, but I actually enjoyed this install. It was very easy, very straightforward. Thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, comment,